You're here because you want to counter Arceus EX, and genuinely speaking, I don't blame you for that. The Arceus EX deck has taken over tournaments, Discord servers, and competitive ladder play through events and Discord tournaments, quickly rising to the BDIF status, which is best deck in the format. It's one of the most oppressive decks in Pokemon TCG Pocket at this time, forcing players to specifically tech against it to stand a chance. Unlike hyper-aggressive decks that only try to close games quickly, Arceus EX can do that and also thrives in mid to late game battles. Its ultimate force attack can scale to 130 damage, making it a strong attacker once fully set up. But what makes this deck so strong? Well, let's cover that together. One, it's got insane scaling damage. Ultimate force starts at 70 but gains plus 20 damage per benched Pokemon, making a full bench damage output of 130, enough to OHKO a lot of current Pokemon in the meta, or even put up some great damage so that it can disrupt and follow up with Mew EX, or even the Dialga EX that gets put back into the bench. It's got resilience to disruption. Fabled Luster prevents paralysis, burn, poison, and other special conditions, making it immune to many forms of status-based disruption. I'm looking at you, Hypno. I know you're still getting played in Gengar decks. Energy acceleration from Dialga EX is peak. Metallic Turbo lets Dialga EX attach 2 mana energy per turn, therefore speeding up Arceus and Mew EX into attacking range by turn 3 to 4. This thing is really fast, really resilient, and has a lot of HP already. Talking about HP, it's got tanked up survivability, with Giant Cape giving plus 20 HP, Potion and Shaman's passive healing 10 HP per turn. Arceus EX, Mew EX, Dialga EX becomes incredibly hard to one-shot. They even have supporting trainers like Cyrus, which creates the Cyrus board control, and Rocky Helmet, which gives breath of life to Cyrus, keeping Cyrus live at all times. If the opponent retreats a damaged Pokemon, Cyrus forces it back into the active spot, ensuring Arceus EX, Mew EX, and even Dialga EX to secure its knockouts. Again, this is the Rocky Helmet punishment. Dialga EX always gets equipped with Rocky Helmet, Mew EX gets equipped with Rocky Helmet, dealing 20 chip damage to attackers, making trades even worse for your opponent. So on top of the resilience, the high HP, the accelerated energy attachments, it gets even worse for you because now they're doing counter damage when they can't even attack. This combination of brutal scaling, bulk, healing, and control makes Arceus EX one of the hardest decks to beat, but not impossible. Before breaking down its weaknesses and counters, let's analyze the deck list and why it's so difficult to beat. Starting off with the Pokemon lineup, we've got 2 Arceus EX, the win condition and late game beast, 2 Dialga EX, energy acceleration engine and frontline tank, 1 Mew EX, backup attacker and safety net, and 1 Shaman, which provides passive healing support. As for trainers and item choices as well as tools, we've got 1 Giant Cape for the plus 20 HP for extra bulk, 2 potions, extra healing to extend longevity, 2 Rocky Helmet, chip damage punishment, and the counterplay is amazing. 1 Cyrus forces damaged Pokemon back into the active spot, 2 Research, obviously, deck thinning and consistency, 2 Pokeball ensures a strong opening hand, hopefully, 2 Giovanni, and this one is based on player style, but I've seen it a lot in this game, plus 10 damage boost for key knockouts. And finally 2 Leaf, which removes 2 retreat costs, giving Dialga EX and Arceus EX flexibility to retreat if it is starting at the first turn. Why this deck works so well? Sometimes too fast to keep up with. Energy acceleration from Dialga EX makes this deck hard to slow down. Paired with Arceus and Mew and a Giovanni, you're hitting really high numbers here. The survivability is insane. Shaman, potions, and Giant Cape keep it alive longer than it should be. This thing is good and a great resilient build. Cyrus and Rocky Helmet punish aggression, and Mew EX acts as a safety net. If Arceus EX falls and fails, Mew EX can still sweep because of genome hacking, which is too good of an attack. Now let's break down how to counter this meta-dominating deck. The weaknesses of Arceus EX deck. Even the strongest decks have clear weak points. Arceus EX is no exception. The first weakness that we want to point out is turn 1 setup struggles. This deck desperately needs Dialga EX in the active spot as soon as possible. If Dialga isn't there turn 1, the entire game plan slows down significantly. If they start off with Arceus EX in the active spot, the opponent is forced to retreat either using Leaf or sacrificing energy attachments, which is going to severely delay their board scaling capabilities. If Shaman starts in the active zone, it's an immediate tempo loss. Shaman is absolutely useless. The only use Shaman has, because it has no offensive ability, meaning it must be swapped out, the only use that it has is literally passive healing. So how would you punish the deck at this point in time? You would use Sabrina to pull out the wrong Pokemon and keep it in the active spot, wasting their Leaf and their energy attachments early. The second weakness that this deck has is a heavy reliance on a full bench. Ultimate Force needs a full bench to hit max damage. Without it, Arceus EX loses most of its firepower. If the bench is disrupted early on, Ultimate Force becomes really weak and deals anywhere between 70 to 110 damage, far from lethal. How would we punish this? Well, some other techs and options that you can consider is playing techs like Greninja or playing the Luxray deck, which can disrupt the strategy. The only issue with this line of tech is that it's a bit slow. You can opt to use the full deck strategy to run 2s of each of these cards. However, it's a little bit of a slow burn, and it still suffers that stage 2 curse where you might not see your Frogadiers or your Luxios. But your first target should always be Shaman. Removing its healing ability is going to hurt their survivability, and going back to the previous counter recommendation, Sabrina is still cracked against this because more than likely, and it is likely, Arceus EX and Mew is to stay on the bench. Dialga is going to be the frontliner every single time. The third weakness that this deck has is that every single Pokemon except for Shaman is an EX. The price trade does not favor Arceus EX at all. Every knockout is worth 2 prize cards. Knocking out just 2 Pokemon puts you out of victory, or even just going for 1 and then attempting to knock out the Shaman because Shaman has low HP puts you at a very, very strong momentum. How would you punish EX Pokemons that are out on the board? How would you punish the Dialga EX that is going to be attacking you to equip those metal energies? Use single prize attackers like Druddigon or Kangaskhan with Rocky Helmet, which can prove to be a great method to wall and counter, softening up the opponent's Pokemon, giving you the ability to use your own Sabrina, your own Cyrus, and even sweeping with your own EX Pokemon. To reiterate these counters, use gust effects like Cyrus, Sabrina. This forces out Arceus and Mew. Shaman into the active spot, delaying the setup. Target Dialga EX before it becomes live. Without Dialga, the deck loses its best energy acceleration, so if you can somehow knock it out before it retreats or keep it on board with the likes of Houndoom, you have out-traded your opponent at that time. You could even consider playing cards like Sudowoodo and Lucario, which is a perfect anti-meta counter because it's 1, a single prizer, and 2, is super effective against the Arceus EX. And now that we're talking about Lucario Sudowoodo, this now leads us to cover the best decks to hard counter in this strategy. The first deck is Lucario plus Sudowoodo, the fighting toolbox strategy. Here is an example deck profile that you can consider, use, and or build off of. Using fighting type Pokemon to exploit Arceus EX's weakness while applying consistent pressure. Dude, Sudowoodo off the bat, early game pressure, fighting headbutt does 8 damage for 1 energy versus any EX Pokemon. This forces Dialga EX to retreat early, burning their Leaf or energies because that Sudowoodo is going to knock it within 3 turns. And if it doesn't knock it within 3 turns, you've got your Cyrus to pull that Dialga right back out to the active zone. You're also running Lucario with Marshadow. I mean, Marshadow is a late game sweeper, maintains momentum and secures knockouts. Marshadow adds non-EX pressure, meaning that if you do lose the Marshadow and the Sudowoodo, you're only giving up 2 prizes max. This extends your strategy's longevity. Second deck that you should consider, and it's a deck that I've used personally myself, it's the Houndoom plus Infernape. There's a video on the channel, check that out, where I'm literally just sweeping Arceus EX decks all day long. I'm calling this the aggro fire lock strategy. The objective obviously is to fire lock the opponent while chipping down Dialga EX before sweeping with Infernape EX. Houndoom gets a nice plus 20 damage thanks to a weakness buff, and Houndoom's attack, corner attack, 60 damage, and it prevents retreating, forcing Dialga to stay in the active. This is the perfect, if not the best counter to this strategy. And within this strategy, you've got Infernape EX, which is a very low cost with free retreats. I don't know what else you would want for this strategy, but Infernape EX cleans up after Houndoom, weakens the board, comes in for a nice closer. While Arceus EX may be the best deck in the format, no deck is truly unbeatable. It thrives on control and momentum, meaning you can disrupt its setup, you can shut it down before it reaches peak performance. And remember, aggressive decks can overwhelm it before it gets fully set up. Disruption-based decks can prevent Arceus EX from hitting its full damage potential, and single-price decks naturally out-trade it in the long run. Hopefully, I've provided enough insight and depth for you to fully understand Arceus EX's weakness, learning to counter its setup, and attacking its core mechanics. And by attacking its core mechanics, you can turn Arceus EX from a nightmare matchup into a winnable battle. So whether you're grinding the events or prepping for your next tournament, take these strategies, tech your decks properly, and put an end to the Arceus EX reign. Now go out there and dominate. This is Low Tier Hero. If you like these kinds of videos, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and for your time. It never goes unnoticed. Take care, my friends. Battle.